Thank you for the introduction, Mackenzie. I'm Natasha Gaffer, and I'm a self-taught software engineer with about 10 years of experience. In 2016, I backpacked around the world to 14 countries in 14 weeks. Since returning, my partner Nick and I converted a school bus into a tiny home where we've been living a near zero waste lifestyle for about 2 years. And in January, I founded a startup in Minneapolis called Forever Ware with my co-founder Nolan Singroy and my partner Nick Krumholz to bring to life circular food packaging solutions. I have some experiences and techniques to share with you over the next 15 minutes to help you implement bold ideas in your own businesses and your personal life. So let's jump right in. I want to start with a question I've asked myself many times while living a zero waste life. I know that others have asked this question too. Do the small steps I take to create less waste have a meaningful impact on the environment? And another way to phrase this question is, why would I refuse a straw when I know that a million more are being thrown away? And the quick answer is that it's not about the one straw that you're diverting from the landfill. It's more so about spreading an idea. And I'll explain this more, but before I do, let's take a detour. So with my background in tech, I'd like to look at a couple of innovative companies that are changing the world. So our first specimen here is Google. And Google has a site called the Moonshot Factory that you can navigate to using the URL x.company. And it has a bunch of sci-fi sounding projects listed. If you've heard of Google X or the Moonshot Company, I'd love to hear in the comments and share with the group. The Atlantic explains Google X like this. So X is perhaps the only enterprise on the planet where regular investigation into the absurd is not just permitted, but encouraged and even required. And it's no joke, they actually have 3 requirements. Each idea must address a huge problem, propose a radical solution, and employ relatively feasible technology. And some of the absurd projects they have tried, I have a few listed on the screen, are hoverboards with magnetic levitation. They've also tried affordable fuel from seawater, and they spent 2 years on contact lenses that measured glucose levels in people with diabetes. And since they were willing to take the risk, they also succeeded on some of these sci-fi projects in varying measures. You've probably heard of Waymo, Google's self-driving car company. They also have a project called Wing, which are drones that deliver aerodynamic packages, and they have several others. But Google isn't working on projects that are 10% improvements on existing solutions. They're known for ideas that are 10 times better. And a great example of something that we're all very familiar with, that we've seen incremental improvements on, is recycling. So recycling hasn't changed much since 1960s, when it first became a necessary solution to manage waste. For 60 years, less than 14% of all the plastic has been recycled, and only 2% of that is effectively recycled into products of the same value as the original product. So this is why we desperately need new 10x solutions that will change our trajectory much faster, which is why I think we're all at this conference today. So let's go back to the straw question. Is refusing a straw part of a 10x solution? And I'd like to do a quick poll. I'll have Mackenzie send that now. Awesome, thank you. And how many of you have been influenced to stop using straws in some capacity, whether you've heard it from social media, the news, from a friend, at a restaurant, or otherwise? Answer yes if you've heard of people refusing straws or you do it yourself. Answer no if you've never heard of this concept or campaign. And I'll give you a second to answer that question. So here's a couple of facts while we wait. I did a quick Google search this week, and I found an article by National Geographic titled Plastic Straw Bans Are Spreading. And this article says that 500 million straws are used every single day. 8.3 billion straws pollute the world's beaches. And I think it's interesting that someone went to the trouble to estimate how many straws alone are on the beach and in the ocean, which is an indicator of the success of this movement. Sharing full results. Okay, so Everybody answered yes, they've heard of this. And if you did answer yes, which you all did, the influence you experienced may have been started by a national campaign launched by Lonely Whale called #StopSucking. And if you want to check out the campaign, I included in a link in my handout so you can learn more. The campaign is a really great example of how an idea can inspire a small action like refusing a straw. And those little actions start a ripple and turn into a huge wave of change. By refusing a single straw, you're spreading this little idea. And the people around you, your family, your friends, colleagues, wait staff at a restaurant, and other strangers are picking up on your behavior because actions speak louder than words. And the impact of these small actions doesn't end at refusing that single straw. If you can stop using a plastic straw, you can stop using other single-use plastic packaging as well. And this campaign is shifting culture by seeding that little idea. And it's a pretty big 10x idea to change behavior like this. So what is it that you can do to come up with some of your own influential 10x ideas for your personal life and business? The next company I'd like to talk about has a cool technique you should try. So that company is the aerospace company SpaceX, which is founded by Elon Musk, who is working on inhabiting Mars. And SpaceX was the first company to launch a rocket, land the first stage, and then reuse it. So they've revolutionized spaceflight with reuse, making it cheaper and more efficient. So that sounds like a 10x idea. But how does just anyone build solutions to get these kinds of results? So Elon employs a strategy used by many great thinkers called reasoning from first principles. And it's the strategy of breaking down complicated problems into fundamentals. So when Elon started SpaceX, he visited a number of aerospace manufacturers around the world and discovered that the cost of purchasing a rocket was astronomical, so up to $65 million. So he started asking questions. And in his words, what is a rocket made of? What is the value of those materials on the commodity market? And it turned out that the material cost of a rocket was only 2% of the typical price. So instead of following the norm and buying a finished rocket, he decided to create his own company, purchase the raw materials for cheap, and build the rocket himself. And SpaceX reduced the price of launching a rocket by nearly 10 times within the first years while still making a profit, just by breaking down the problem down in the most basic assumptions, which led him to an original idea. If you'd like to learn more about first principles, I also have a link to that in my handout. So far we've talked about big 10x ideas and how to come up with them, but how do you implement them? So as a software engineer, pretty common practice to use a technique called agile development. It's pretty common, so I will give just a brief explanation of what it is. Agile is the methodology of building small features and releasing them as you complete them. And that's in opposition to doing extensive planning and design up front for the entire project, then building the whole project and later releasing it all at once. And even the grand ideas like launching a rocket to Mars and building self-driving fleet of vehicles requires an incremental process like agile development. So to demonstrate my agile development, I want to share my story of launching Forever Ware. So this story actually began with a backpacking trip. So I'm going to backtrack slightly before getting into Forever Ware. In 2016, after quitting our fancy corporate jobs at Target, Nick and I backpacked all the way around the world. We learned how to scuba dive in Malta, and Indonesia was by far the most beautiful and had the most interesting culture, but it was also a place where we saw the most trash. So this is what we saw on the beaches when we arrived on the coast of Bali and Kuta Beach, and this was a life-changing experience for me. What we saw wasn't something that could be resolved with a beach cleanup. This is a yearly phenomenon in Kuta that fills the beach with 20 tons of trash and debris per day for 3 months starting in December. This backpacking trip really was where my tiny living adventure started. And after carrying everything I needed in a backpack for 3 months, going back to my material life just wasn't appealing. And I wanted nothing to do with plastic after seeing it choking the ocean that had stolen my heart when I learned to scuba dive. So when we got back to the States, we decided let's tread much, much lighter on the environment and live in a tiny home. So here is our bus. Right here on this rooftop, Nick and I watched a couple of SpaceX launches in Florida. And during the 6-month conversion and for 2 years after moving in, we systematically changed the way that we lived our lives. Reducing our consumption wasn't a weekend project, but it was a change of lifestyle for us. We bit off little chunks and tried new routines as we went. And Nick did all the electrical with clean solar energy. And you can see in the bottom right, we have our Nissan Leaf electric car battery bank that he built. And I did all the plumbing, and I chose an on-demand water heater to save energy. And after living that lifestyle, I just couldn't see myself working a corporate job. So in January, I decided that I would dedicate the next the decade or two to solving environmental problems. So I started Forever Ware. And my team came up with a pretty significant mission to accelerate the world's transition to reusable food packaging. And I'd like you to humor me for just a minute, so close your eyes and imagine yourself at your local grocery store. Look around, look a little closer at the packaging. Everything is packaged in reusable containers. Keep your eyes closed. Now you're suddenly at home and you're eating your favorite snack and the container is empty. What do you do with the package? You drop it in the recycling bin, right? But wait, it's not a recycling bin at all. It's a reusables bin. Okay, you can open your eyes. And I'd love to know in the comments how easy or hard it was for you to imagine this. If we have some time during the Q&A, we can share some of your thoughts. So let's go back and chat about our Agile process for a minute. I'll share a few of the steps we took to get Forever Ware up and running. So the first thing that we had to do is prioritize a very small piece of the project that would add incremental value to our customers, and it had to be something we could launch almost immediately to test our hypotheses. So we spent $1,000 to buy a fleet of containers. I have an example here. Look like this. Some cups as well. All right. And what we did is we launched a Shopify website doing pre-order meal delivery that you can get to by going to takeout.foreverware.app, and it looks like this. And so we knew that that it would take a collaborative effort to implement such a huge idea. So we wanted to start reaching out to competitors, zero waste groups, nonprofits, and anyone else that was working towards the same mission to see how we could collaborate. COVID also happened as we were trying to find partners. We had to rapidly pivot our model. And the important part was that we stay open to change early and late into the project. And because our team is small, we had to maximize the amount of work we weren't going to do. So if it didn't add immediate value to our current project, it got deleted from the priority list. The principle that I like to live by is that if you have more than 3 priorities, you have none at all. And then we had to assess how we were doing as we went through this project. So we keep a document where we have a list for each thing that we accomplished each day, and it acts as a way for us to divvy up tasks, and it's also good for quarterly reviews. And as the project gets more complex, we'll create a Scrum project using a tool like Jira or Trello. So that's our launch story, and if you're in Minneapolis and want to try the service while it's in beta, please go ahead. What we're offering is a service for restaurants and grocery stores, eventually, that replaces single-use takeout boxes, we've all seen these, with durable stainless steel containers that can be borrowed by customers. And then behind the scenes, my team collects used dishware, we sanitize them at a commercial kitchen, and we redistribute them to vendors for reuse. So if you'd like to learn more, there are more links in my handout. Check out our Minneapolis community webinar on YouTube, or reach out to me via LinkedIn. We also have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or you can email me. We all have a few roles. We also have a few roles that we're looking to fill: a marketing intern, looking for a couple founder roles in finance and sustainability, and also advocates to help with our upcoming public launch. And if you need something fulfilling to work on, just let me know. Nolan and I are happy to set up time with anyone that would like to chat. And if you're wondering what you can do to help us, start conversations with your neighbors and your coworkers, volunteers. Volunteer for us and other companies presenting today. Let restaurants know about our service. Order meals on our platform, and stop supporting plastic producers. And the last thing I'll say is there's a quote that I keep seeing on social media, and I'll leave you with this. We don't need 1,000 people doing zero waste perfectly. We need 1 million doing it imperfectly. Thank you.